2006, she has been conducting research on the species, the giant otter, which was the focus of her master's and doctoral studies. In 2013, she became the species coordinator within the IUCN Otter Specialist Group. Caroline is also the executive coordinator of the National Action Plan for the Conservation of the Giant Otter in Brazil and the in situ coordinator of the International Giant Otter Alliance. Additionally, she serves as a technical advisor for the Giant Otter Reintroduction Project, led by Fundación Rewilding Argentina in Iberá, Argentina. For today's webinar, Dr. Caroline will be speaking about giant otters and the challenges of sustainable tourism. Carol, the stage is yours. I'll just stop screen sharing.
Unmute. Can you hear me now? Okay. So thank you very much for the introduction, Simon, and also for the invitation to be here. And thank you for all the participants that are joining us today. I don't think I need to introduce myself anymore because you have already did it. So today I'm going to talk about the giant otters, a short introduction about the species, and also how tourism is affecting the species, and what have been done to improve this relationship, this interaction between tourism and giant otters. So, yeah. So a short introduction about the species. The giant otters is one of the largest, the largest but not the heaviest otter of the 14 species. So it is a social species, as you may know. It is piscivorous, so it's apex predator. That's why the species is also considered a great bioindicator and a water sentinel. So the species is very vulnerable to disturbance, to water pollution, to any kind of habitat loss or destruction. So it is a great bioindicator. And the groups are composed mainly by a couple, that is the dominant couple that reproduces, and all the other individuals of the group usually are the offspring of this couple, but we have seen some groups that are not genetically related. So it means that sometimes solitary individuals can join a couple, a group, and compose a new group that is not related. So this is also quite common. Usually, with 2 years old, the individuals achieve the sexual maturity. So it's when they usually disperse from their group and try to find a partner to start a new group. And the longevity is in the nature, is about 15 years. So the species is territorial. Groups usually establish very limited territories along the rivers that during the dry seasons is about 10 kilometers long. But for sure in the flooded season, it increases a lot. And this means that they spend a lot of time, their daily time, sand marking the borders, the shores, to make sure that other groups will not join them, encounter them, because agonistic encounters are very, very expensive for them. As you can see here, this is an encounter between a giant otter group. So they are fighting, and it is very dangerous. Sometimes even if the dominant couple gets too injured, it can also disintegrate the entire group. And usually the breeding season occurs during the dry season. That is also the tourism season, high tourism season, especially in Pantanal. That is the study site that I'm going to present to you. And this video was done in the last field work this month, as you can see. This is a young, few weeks old cub that fall down the den. So it's just an example how vulnerable they are during this time. And can you imagine a boat running on this river right now, making waves, and can take this cub into the water? So in the 6 months old, the cubs learn to swim, learn to fish, and that's why this period is very, very critical for the species. And it usually occurs between June and September, as I mentioned, when the high season tourism happens. And the species is in danger of extinction, especially because of the historical fur trade that depleted most of the populations. Some of them didn't recover. As you can see in this map, you can see the current range is in red, the historical range in gray. So now we have the occurrence range about 60% left. And the current rates are not anymore the fur hunting, but we have emergency threats like habitat loss, degradation, water contamination, overfishing in some places, human conflicts in most of the areas where we have human coexistence, poorly managed tourism, as I'm going to talk to you today, and also disease. And more recently, we have seen also the negative impact of climate change in some areas. So now let's present to you the Pantanal, that is one of our study areas. The Pantanal is known as the world's largest wetland. It ranges about 200,000 kilometers squares. Most of the area is in Brazil, but it's also ranged in Bolivia and Paraguay. And it is a plain that has low declivity. So as you can see here in this picture, and all the highlands surrounding Pantanal, they are source of water. So when the rainy season happens, that usually happens, the rain concentrates in a season that is called rainy season. Most of the rain fall in this period, and it flood almost all 80% of this plain get flooded. That's why Pantanal is this big wetland, and the Pantanal needs this water. But in the last 6 years, what we have seen is no rain, basically no rain. So the Pantanal drought a lot, and this has also impacted a lot the species. The Pantanal is known as a biodiversity heritage. So it has lots of species, and especially birds and big vertebrates, which makes also Pantanal an important tourism place. It was elected in 2023 by Time as one of the world's greatest place for tourism, wildlife tourism. And all this has brought a lot of tourists to this area. But as you may imagine, the place is not prepared for all this growing. So people that used to work on farms or as fishermen now they are conducting tourism. Usually they don't know exactly how to do it in the right way. And as you can see this picture, we have dozens of boats running all day long along the rivers, creating, of course, a big impact for the wildlife too. But in the other side, tourism is a great economic activity that can bring also conservation incomes, yeah, a lot of big and great impact for the conservation, but if it is conducted in the right way. Here I will just show you some videos that you can also find on YouTube that shows how in some places the tourism with giant otters is conducted. As you can see, usually people attract the others to the right near the boat so people can take good pictures with their cell phones. And this is the way they think. This is the best way to conduct the tourism with giant otters. And they sell this kind of tourism on internet and everywhere. Here is a more wild guide that not just feed the others, but also attract them with food on his mouth. So it's very, very, yeah, you can see. And it's dangerous, and not just for the guide, but for all these people that were in the boat. And if something happens, for sure that others will be the worst part of the story. So that's why usually the bad or the poorly managed tourism impacts the species. And now I will going to show a little bit why and how. So these are videos showing otters that were raised by local communities. This is first video shows two young otters that were raised in Amazon. And they start, once they grow up, they start moving through the community, looking for food and getting really close to the people. And there is not all the people that like to have others on their house or near them. So one of them, we tried to move these animals to a zoo, but one of them was killed before we could really successfully move them. The other one is already in a zoo in São Paulo because we couldn't change anymore this kind of behavior. Once they learn how to get food from people, they won't change this habit. And here's the second video, a female in Pantanal that also was feeded by tourists. Usually tourism happens between June and November. After November starts the fishing season. So can you imagine the otter that learns to get fish from people during the tourism season? After that, they are looking for fish inside fishing boats. What's not so happily. So this female was killed in the fishing season. Just an example of what usually happens when an animal becomes very habituated to be fed by people. This is another example, what happens. So sometimes they do not just go inside boats or near people, but they also can attack people. So this happens during the pandemic. We don't know exactly the story, what happened, how it came to that, but we just know that people were like swimming in the river and a group attacked them. So, and for sure, this group was persecuted by people, and we don't exactly know what happened after, because as I mentioned, it was during the pandemic. We couldn't visit the areas at that time. but it happened twice in the same place with the same group. So probably is a group that was really afraid of people. Maybe it was during the breeding season when they are more stressed, also when people get too close. So it's another example that the extreme accidents can also happen. And as I already mentioned, the tourism usually happens when the groups have cubs. Cubs are very vulnerable to everything. They need really close attention and support of the adults to learn everything. So can you imagine dozens of boats running all day long in along the rivers? How it can disturb the development of cubs, everything. So this is how and what we have seen in Pantanal, and I will show you. And most of the time, we don't remember, we forget that rivers also work like highways. And when boats are running, crossing the rivers, they can also, it's like a traffic, and they can also go through the giant otters. So we have also seen some giant otters injured by boats. And here is an example how the group can get very stressed when we get close to them when they have cubs. So all this disturbance causes stress, affect health. Tourism can break the groups, the social structure of the groups. It can also disturb so much others that they can abandon the territories and leave the areas. So one of the factors that we are monitoring is how groups persist in the areas, and this can be also an indicator of disturbance. So now I'm going to present you just some results and data of one of the areas that we have been monitoring giant otters in the Pantanal. This area is known as the Jaguar Land. Is an area in the northern Pantanal. Porto Jofre locality is just by the Cuiabá River, as you can see in the picture here. And this area is very known for jaguar safaris. So the main tourism activity here is for jaguar watching. And can you imagine dozens of boats running on the river, along the river to see jaguars? They forget any other species that are there. And we have been done since 2019 monitoring the giant otter groups that live there. And we have been surveying the number of the population, the number of cubs, the number of cubs that also survive year by year. So here I'm going to present you just the numbers of cubs that have from each year. So as you can see, in 2019, we had 10 cubs, 2020, just 1 cub, but most of the cubs didn't survive in this year. So the blue line shows the survival rate that should be near the red line here, that is like 50% of survival rate. This is what we expect when everything is okay. But as you can see, the blue line was not just in 2022 was above, but the number of cubs that were raised was just 7. So a small also reproduction rate for this species. So in 2020, we had a big fire. Almost 80% of the area was burned in this year. That's why most of the cubs died. We had a 0 survival rate in this year. And another thing is happening in the last year. As you can see, a very low survival rate, near 4%. And I'm asking why, yeah? And I'm going to show you why. So last year, we started to see a very uncommon behavior interaction between jaguars and giant otters. So we saw and we recorded 5 predation of cubs and 1 predation of an adult female that was in the case pregnant. So we have seen the first attack in 2019, but it was a very single attack from a jaguar female to a cub, and the group could recover the cub, even it was died, but they recovered the cub. But now we are seeing a changing on the behavior of jaguars. And why is this happening? So this is one of our questions, and we are monitoring. We still are monitoring the population this year, along this year too, to understand better if this was just a 1 year, one situation, or if it's going to be a pattern in this jaguar population, that maybe they are really learning and getting very expert on predating giant otters. This can be a consequence of food chain imbalance, for example, maybe because of fires, maybe because of this high intensity of boats traffic, that jaguar are really moving close to the river because they are being attracting to the boats. We don't know. So we need to understand better. Here is just an example of video showing how one of the ways jaguars chase otters, they stay close to the dens. They wait the adults to move, and then they go to the den trying to really capture one of them. Usually it happens near the dens with cubs. So this is another thing that we are going to try to understand better, if they do this with any kind of group or just with group with cubs. We need to understand better. And here is a video recorded by a camera trap where you can see really an attack. So this is what's happening there. And now I'm going to present just data from one single group of giant otters that was monitored for the last 6 years long, since we started this monitoring there. And this group, all the 6 years, they stay in the area with the highest boat traffic. So as you can see in this map, we have a state park here that is called Encontro das Águas. And it's along the river Três Irmãos here. That's why the group is called Três Irmãos. And this group was one of the groups more observed during tourism by tourists, because this was is the area with more visits. And what we have seen, as you can see first here in this graph, the group of 5 in the beginning of the monitoring time, it started to decline. So now we have just a couple there. And has a consequence also, it also impacts the reproduction success of this group. We have just seen a survival rate higher than 50% in the first year. And even during the pandemic, we haven't seen survivor success there with cubs. So we haven't seen cubs have been raising during this time. So the groups had cubs just 3 years, as you can see. And in the first year, just 1 cub survived. This is just an example of what's happening there. Yeah. the average survival rate of these groups is about 8%. And here you can see some pictures that indicate that these groups are not well. These are indicators of stress. As you can see, the face of this cup is a lot of ones here that indicates they have low humidity. Yeah. And it shows probably that is a sign of stress, probably caused by boats or by jaguars. And here is another video of a camera trap that shows a intestinal prolapse of a cub. That probably also a consequence of the intense disturbance that this group is under stress, or something that they need to move the cubs too much from one den to another. And this is just an example of why probably these cubs are not surviving. But even so, if we see the whole picture of this population, the number of groups remains stable. What means that we have still sources of individuals coming from outside this population, probably, that are maintaining the population stable. But this also is important for us that are studying others, not just giant otters, but other species, that maybe just the number of adults of groups is not enough for us to understand the disturbance and also the impact of human activities. We need also to look at the reproduction rate, the survival rate of cubs. And now, yeah, what are we going to do with all this data? Yeah, I'm going to show you what we have been done for the Giant Otter Project, especially in Pantanal, but we are also working, as you can see in this map, in other 2 areas in Pantanal. Here is the blue site, also in an area that is an ecotone between Amazon and the savanna landscape in Pantanal, and also in Amazon. So we have been conducting research in all these areas, especially population monitoring, to understand, as I show you for the Porto Jofre, all this population dynamic, and also other kinds of research. We also conduct education with communities and schools, and trying to to improve the image of the species. We also conduct activities to improve the way tourism is conducting, and communication to create awareness campaigns, sensibility with communities. So if we see the roadmap from these last 7 years, we have conducted since the beginning the population monitoring. This is not just important to get data, but also for people to see us in the field, to create an identity with us and with the species. We have also conducted environmental education since the beginning, and also communication and awareness campaigns. With the tourism trade, with the tourism professional, we have been conducting trainings through workshops. First, we started during the pandemic with online workshops. It works very well. And now we have been conducting in-person workshops to achieve those boat drivers and people that usually don't use so much the internet. And it has also helped a lot to raise all the guidelines for tourism that I'm going to show you. Lectures for tourists, because tourists are our eyes. So this is a way for us to see if the guidelines that we have brought to the tourism profession, if they are really working. So tourists let us know how it's working. And in the last year, we have started to implement all these on public policies too, as for example, for the state park management plan. So here just some examples of outcomes and types of projects that we have been conducting. One of the outcomes and of the products that we produce every year is an identification guide for giant otter groups in this area that we give to the tourists and also for the tourism professional guides, so they can use this as a tool to improve the tourism during the activity, the otter watching, or also the jaguar safaris, so they can get information and also help us with science data, yeah, to improve also our monitoring. We also conduct several types of projects like ecological, behavior, genetic, and health assessments. And as I mentioned, we are also improving the monitoring of jaguars and others' interaction along this year. We have created some guidelines so people know exactly how they should behave to reduce the impact of the tourism to the species. So basically we have 5 rules, that is, allow the movement of the otters, do not go near dens, latrines, and active sites of the species, for sure do not feed, and avoid movements or making sounds, because people love to play back for this species, to do sounds and try to attract them, and also respect the safe distance. So this distance is related with the area, with the habit of the species in each area. So for example, in Porto Jofre, we couldn't do it less than 25 meters, because more than 25 meters, because this is the distance that they need to take from jaguars, and they would never take more than this for others. So we try to start with 30 meters, but they never respect. So we put the same distance as they already are practicing with jaguars. But in the Southern Pantanal, there is a law that established that the safe distance should be 30 meters, for example. So it depends on the area. And the workshop, just an example, as I mentioned, we started with online workshops, and it worked very well. But in the last years, we also did some in-person workshops. And now we have more than 400 professionals that have been trained by us. And it is very nice to see how they are changing. Every year we see how they engage and how they are really implementing these guidelines. In some areas that we identified that there is still feeding happening, we also implement some awareness campaign, as we set some signs on rivers, on lodges, for them to know that they cannot feed. There are laws that do not allow to feed, so we just highlight how it should be. Yeah. We also produce some education materials like kid books. Now we have this kid book is turned into a small animation that we give to schools and communities so they can use, also in tourist centers, so people can watch and see play sets, and also lots of practical activities with kids in schools. We also have been conducting the World Otter Week since 3 years in the São Paulo Aquarium, but also now we are starting other zoos and places where we have more people visiting. Science communication through social media. We have our Instagram that is very active, and other kinds of channels. And also, as I told you, with tourists, this is very important to make them know the guidelines and also about the species. Most of people that visit Pantanal don't know exactly that the species is there. So that most of people come to see jaguars. So we need to highlight the giant otters and also the other species that are there. And also we have been helping and be involved in other fronts, has the Brazilian Action Plan that is now in the third cycle that started last year and will go until the 2029. The IGOA, that is the International Giant Otter Alliance, that started in 2022. It has been a great way to engage experts and in situ and ex situ experts in thinking on one approach for the conservation of the species. And as Simon mentioned, I'm also supporting and helping to support the advising the reintroduction project in Argentina. So this is our team, the Giant Otter team, with people that are patient of others. Most of them work voluntarily for the other project. And we have also conducting some training sessions with the team, so people also are training and also train other people, are more prepared to train also other people. So thank you. I need also to thank also our sponsors and partners that make this all happen. And thank you, all of you. I'm very happy and I'm open for questions.
Am I unmuted? Yes. Hello. Thank you, Carol. That was great. Super interesting. And there were new things that I didn't know about, so that was absolutely great. We do have questions. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, so there are several questions. I'm going to just choose some of them because or else we'll be here all afternoon. The first one I think is more just, for you, is tourism beneficial for otter conservation, in your opinion, hearing all of this?
For sure, for sure. So tourism is a way to give light to the species. So people really know better the species and give more attention for the species. It is great to see how, for example, boat drivers that live there have been living there since they were born, and they have never give attention for the species because they just think that the species, like, they damage the fishing tools, they disturb the fishing, and they are not well. But now they are looking different for the species because people are asking them to stop to see the species, to take pictures. We are there taking getting data that are so important, and they are helping us. So this just shows us how tourism can really raise attention and education and conservation for the species. But we need to do this in a good way, yeah. And even and always involving people.
Yeah, that's really great. There is another question here, which is very relevant. If somebody were to go to Pantanal, like one of us right now, how would we choose a good guide? Like what do we have to look for? Do you have a list on the website? Can we call you and ask? But apart from calling you and ask, how do we recognize a good tour guide?
Yeah, we are working on a certification that we don't have already, but we are working on that. So we have the list, for example, that is not public yet, but because we have a list of people that were trained, for example, and also lodges that are really involved on a good tourism. But this is not public yet because we need really to work better on this certification, and also how we are going to public this, not to create a competition, you know? this is the way we are now trying to understand and studying how we are going to publish this. But we have the list, so if you want to know, you can really contact the Projeto Ariranhas, and we are going to let you know what are and who are the better place.
Okay, perfect. So the next question is about the relationship between jaguars and giant otters. It's a very long question. I read it 3 times, and I'm going to read it again so that I can give you the juice of it.
Okay.
Basically, do you think that this predation between jaguars on giant otters, is it just localized? Or do you think it's like a trend that will spread in all of the areas in which their habitat overlaps?
So we have already jaguars and giant otters living together in lots of places, and we haven't seen that trend happening in other places, not in that intensity. So the Porto Jofre site is also known by one of the places that has the highest density of jaguars. Maybe that's one of the reasons why this is happening. Yeah, the competition between jaguars, low food, lots of unbalance. But for sure, this is a question that maybe we are not going to answer in 1 year and not alone. But it's an important question, and it's a way maybe that we are going to also to see and monitor and understand better the unbalance that may happen in other places too.
Okay, thank you. Another question from an email that I got. Is there any conflict between the fishing industry or the fishermen that are there and the conservation groups that want to promote otter presence?
Not exactly there. We haven't seen a conflict, but we know that there are some conflicts between fishermen and others in some places, but are really local and in a small scale, but not related to conservation groups. I don't know if this was the question, but not, we haven't at least experienced a conflict with fishermen. No, yeah.
Okay.
Not there, not there.
Okay, thank you. And I think the last question could be, in your opinion, what is the ideal version of giant otter friendly tourism? So what would be the ideal, the best way that somebody can go?
Yeah, the best way probably is already happening in some places in Pantanal. That, for example, one of the places that we are monitoring giant otters, it happens very well. It's the Barranco Alto farm in the southern Pantanal. It's in like people in a small boat with paddles with an engine that do not disturb the environment. So a very silent engine, few people in a boat, not like one boat in a river. This is the perfect. But we know that some places we are never going to have this again, because now we are already in a stage that we have lots of people there using this area. So we need to find a way that the disturbance is not that great, that big, even we have dozens of boats. So for example, in Porto Jofre, we are trying to build a model that we don't have all the boats in the same place at the same time. For example, creating zones with a limit number that boats that can visit that area for a day. So, if we achieve this, I'm going to be very happy. because now they can visit all the park, for example, everywhere when they want, with no limits. So this is not good. So now there we are trying to establish these zones and limits, and we hope that it will be established in the near future.
Thank you. I think we forgot to mention that we'd like to take a picture of everybody at the end of the webinar. So maybe, Carol, can you stop sharing your screen?
Sure.
And if everybody that wants to can turn on their camera, I'll take a picture just for, you know, oh, I lost the word. For the future. There we go. Oh, that's great. Look at all these people. I'm gonna have to take 2 pictures because I think there are 2 pages. Okay, there's another Max. Oh, Ferdy, yes, there you are. Okay. Wow, okay, perfect. Okay, let's start taking some of them. Is everybody smiling? Are you all smiling? Yes, okay. Nearly all of you there. Okay, let's see. Are there 2 pages? There are 2 pages. Okay, let me go to the second page. Yes, everybody get your hair in order. I have great problems with my hair today, so I hope nobody actually looks at these pictures. Okay, there we go. Oh no, my hand is there. Okay, I'm taking pictures. Everybody's smiling. You look amazing. Thank you so much. Okay, I've taken my pictures. I am going to mute myself, and Simon is going to say our goodbyes.
Yes. So thanks again, Carol, for this super interesting webinar and for the incredible work that you're doing. I could listen to you talking about giant otters a few more hours, I think. I'm sure that our participants feel the same way. To all of you who were listening today, thank you for attending. If you have any feedback for us, if you wish to see any specific otter-related topics in our upcoming webinars, feel free to reach out via email or social media. And stay tuned for the next webinar that will be promoted via our channels. Thanks and take care.